Welcome, Rexburg, to the Rexburg Hustle today. We're excited that you're here with us. We have a great show prepared. We're excited to visit with you today and learn some great things, and we're going to introduce our guest here in just a minute. But first, we want to give a shout-out to the Beauty and the Beast that is going to be showing the end of the month, right?
Yes, finally.
I think it's June 21st, 22nd, if I remember right.
June 21st, 22nd, and 24th, I believe.
That's right. Okay, yep. 21st, 22nd, 24th. It's going to be a dynamic play, locally produced, locally done. Ann Clough is the brains behind this, and her amazing team of 100-plus people.
140 people.
Yeah,
on
140 people.
Pretty impressive.
Amazing. So Rick's wife is in it. My daughter's helping make the costumes. We're excited to see how this turns out. It's going to be a lot of fun. So shout out to that, to the Beauty and the Beast. What do we have today, Rick?
Well, also on the note of Beauty and the Beast, guys, if you need to get your tickets still, just remember Ann Clough in last week's episode, she mentioned that tickets do sell out, especially when it's a performance this big. They are doing it at Madison High School, so the auditorium's slightly bigger than it generally is. But Zach, our tech guy, is going to put the link on how to buy tickets in the description in the comment area. So please make sure to jump on and get those as soon as possible, because you may not get them.
That's right. They sell out quick. Thank you for the reminder.
Oh, you
Perfect.
betcha. That's what I'm here for.
All right.
Well, guys, today we have Gregg Hardy here with Air Idaho Rescue.
Yes.
Gregg is going to be talking a little bit about the company, about his background. And first of all, Gregg, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on it today.
Thanks for having me on.
Glad you're here.
Of course.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Now, Gregg works for a pretty awesome company, very dynamic company, and a company that I think everybody gets excited to see. One example of that actually is not too long ago, I believe, Lincoln Elementary had a helicopter come land in the middle of their field. Was it a show and tell day?
Oh, wow.
Pretty much. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. In this new position.
Tell us about that. Yeah, that was
So
pretty cool.
Ultimately, my kids go to Lincoln Elementary School, and talking to the principal, I said, "Would you like a helicopter?" And he said, "Absolutely." So we made it happen. It was just one of those things. Why not? Let's get the kids introduced to the helicopter.
That has had to have just lit up the eyes of every kid there. That is a huge.
And all of a
Oh,
sudden,
man.
your kids were the coolest people at school.
That's right.
Instantly.
That's right.
Instantly.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's right.
Well, awesome. Well, Gregg, why don't you give us a little bit about your background, kind of how you got into the position that you're in now, your background with work and everything that's gotten you into Air Idaho Rescue.
Of course, absolutely. So I actually was raised in Seattle and started as an EMT in downtown Seattle, King County, working on the ambulances, running calls all night long, and then ultimately got into firefighting and headed down to Utah, got my paramedic, my firefighter certs, worked for Orem City for about 4 years, and then headed over to California, worked for Anaheim Fire, worked for Riverside County Fire, worked in the EMS department teaching, kind of more doing the new hires and getting them all geared up, all the research classes. And then eventually we came out here to Idaho, started working for Air Idaho Rescue as a flight paramedic for the past 4 years, worked for BYU, teaching their paramedic program. And also works on the side for the fire department here in Madison County.
And when you still do work for Madison County, right?
I do.
Okay. So needless to say, you never have a dull moment or a
No.
off time or anything like that.
There's always something going on.
Yeah.
So.
Not that we hope anything bad ever happens, but if it does, you're a good guy to know. So that's great. Yeah, very well versed. So how's it been here in Rexburg? How have you enjoyed this area of you?
So my mother's from Star Valley. My father-in-law's from Star Valley. We knew the area coming into it, and we just love this area.
Oh, great place.
Absolutely. So it's been a thrill to be here.
Good.
Well, why don't you tell us? We got an image here of one of your fixed wing and one of your rotorcraft. Obviously, people get excited to see kind of these things, but they're often not showing up to the scenes of exciting things for other people.
That's true.
But why don't you tell us a little bit about the company, kind of what your guys' mission is, and why these exist, why you've got a fixed wing, why you have rotorcraft, and why Air Idaho Rescue is a company.
Of course, absolutely. So here locally, we're known as Air Idaho Rescue. Our parent company is Air Methods. Locally, we have currently 3 rotor bases, West Yellowstone, Driggs, and Soda Springs. And then we have our fixed wing, the airplane, down in Idaho Falls.
And this is the one you used to work on?
This is the one I've worked on. I worked on for the past 4 years.
Okay.
We just switched out to a newer aircraft.
Oh.
Still a Pilatus PC-12.
Nice.
Same exact everything, except for it's just a newer aircraft.
Okay.
So, and then for the rotors, we have A-Stars, AS-350s, handle the altitude really well. They're just workhorses. So, and we have those at each of our bases.
Okay.
And then soon we'll be opening our base in Salmon next month.
That's
So
exciting.
That'll be a
Great.
rotor base.
Okay.
Nice.
Awesome.
Nice.
So, what are the different aircraft used for? Obviously, fixed wing's not going to show up to the scene of an accident, but maybe the rotorcraft will. But I guess there's going to be a purpose in having both. What's the purpose in each one of those aircraft?
So each aircraft obviously service a different type of patient. The fixed wing typically travels more from facility to facility. They have to have an airport, obviously, to land. And so now you're taking a patient from one hospital to another, and usually that's longer distance. And then the helicopter obviously can land at scene calls, meaning that they can go out pretty much anywhere and land.
They can land at Lincoln Elementary.
That's right.
Start treating a patient and get them where they need to go.
Okay.
But they still do interfacility as well from hospital to hospital. The fixed wing can still run scene calls. We can land at
really?
the airport, and
Yeah.
an ambulance can show up with a patient, and we can take them if we need to. So there's a lot of different options. They just service a different market. And then also definitely when the weather gets worse, the fixed wing starts getting utilized a whole lot more.
Gotcha.
Rotors can't fly in icing conditions and things.
Right. Right. Now, which out of the two aircraft, which do you think gets used more? I mean, the two types of aircraft.
Really depends on the type of day. The
Okay.
rotor obviously is everybody's favorite.
Right.
It's used a lot.
Yeah.
But the fixed wing is used quite a bit as well. The fixed wing likes to go out of state.
Okay.
In that fixed wing, I've been to California, the Arizona, to Milwaukee. I've actually been the Florida in it for hurricane efforts.
Oh, that's
So-
I forgot about
Wow.
that. That's right.
Yeah.
And you guys
So-
flew.
Wow.
You took that all the way across the
exact point
country.
right there. All
Oh
the
my
way.
gosh.
Amazing. Amazing.
That's a long flight.
And these are fully equipped, ready to handle about anything.
Correct. They're a flying
Yeah.
ICU, so they have everything that we possibly
A
need.
flying ICU. That's
Wow.
awesome.
Yep.
That is really cool.
Huh.
Yeah. We have so much recreation in this area, sand dunes and fishing and island park and snow skiing and all the different things, snowmobiles and all that. I mean, all times of the year, there's opportunities to help and serve and help people all around.
There really is.
Yeah.
I mean, this area is, and plus it's so rural that it would take time for rescue efforts to get to you. So the faster we can get on scene, the better it is for the
Absolutely.
patient. And that's what it's all geared toward, is for that patient.
Very cool.
Now, recently there's been a video circulating around Facebook and YouTube. You might know the one I'm talking about, where it's a rotorcraft rescuing a lady who unfortunately just started spinning in the the basket she was in.
Correct.
Do you guys, not that that's your type of rescue, but do you guys perform kind of those backcountry rescues as well, or is that a whole different thing? Do you guys mainly just come to accidents or more general locations, or are you guys actually doing rescue efforts as well?
So with Air Idaho Rescue, we don't do any hoisting operations,
Okay.
rescue operations. We don't do extrication.
Okay.
That's the local ground crews, search and rescue, fire, EMS.
Okay.
But what we do is offer those services free of charge.
Oh.
Meaning that we only bill if we transport a patient. If we're involved with search and rescue efforts or anything else, that's just being part of the community. And
Wow.
That's just us being here.
That's fantastic.
So
That is
That's
really
fantastic.
cool.
Yeah. So at any time you're willing to jump in and do what has to be done. I mean, if someone has to be transported, obviously, but like you said, boots on the ground, extrication, and all these different things. Do you get the call and you guys just jump out and say, "Hey, we don't have anything going on right now. We can be there," or
that's pretty much it. So
Yeah.
ultimately, a typical call is going to go through the 911 system.
Right.
And then they're going to call us if they need us, and we'll get going. If we get canceled at any time during that call, that's all right with us. But if we're on scene and we're helping out and we still get canceled, that's fine
It's
too.
all good,
We just
yeah.
love to fly.
awesome.
So
That's awesome.
Yeah. So now, what would you say in this area at least? What's kind of your most common call that you would get for let's say for the helicopter, for the rotorcraft?
Well, around here we're playing with elevation.
Uh-huh.
So once you start getting the Yellowstone, the Tetons, now you're starting to see a lot of people traveling, tourists. So we get a lot of respiratory and chest pains
Oh, okay.
because the elevation plays havoc
Interesting.
with different things.
That is interesting. I would have never guessed that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just people vacationing, coming from other elevations. Maybe not their health is maybe not the best, and they come up here to the high elevation, and things start happening. I
That's
guess.
correct.
They just
Absolutely.
surprise.
So let's say they live in Florida or
Yeah,
California. They're
yeah.
at sea level. They have
Yeah.
COPD or CHF, and ultimately
Yeah.
they come to elevation. Now it's just putting a stress on their heart
Yeah.
and lungs. that they're
Everything
not
gets
used to.
magnified, and they weren't used to it, and big surprise, and and
Absolutely.
yeah,
Got to get somewhere
Makes
quick.
sense.
Happens very frequently.
yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense.
Now, and I guess the key thing with anything dealing with air and with you guys is speed, right? And that's why people use you guys, and that's why you're called to the different scenes or different accidents or whatever, is because you guys are quicker. You can fly. You don't have to travel by road. You can get there a lot quicker. So
Absolutely. It's definitely quick. And we have flight times everywhere we go, so we know how fast we are, and we'll
Yeah.
get the patient hopefully
So it's all
to that receiving facility a whole lot quicker.
pretty well calculated. And by the time you get there, everybody's ready to receive you.
Yes.
Huh? That's pretty awesome.
No, it's
That is
pretty
cool.
smooth.
Now, recently you said that you worked on this aircraft for a few years.
Correct.
You've recently taken a new position at Air Idaho Rescue. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about that?
So this new position I decided to take was it's ultimately business development.
Okay.
Meaning I'm the facilitator. I'm out there shaking hands, meeting the customers, finding out where we can make our improvements and make things better and easier for everybody.
Okay.
And so my area basically is from Idaho Falls out to Chalice, Salmon, up to Bozeman, and out to Pinedale, Wyoming. So I cover a massive area. And now I'm starting to cover the south end of our area too, down Soda Springs and down that way.
And have you enjoyed that? Because that's obviously a very different change. You were used to kind of the fireman schedule, several days on and then several days off, and I think that kind of give you a little bit more freedom. But now your job description is completely different than what you've been used to most of your life.
That's correct. And just so everybody knows, our clinicians work 24 hours on, 24 off, 24 on, and then 5 days off.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, and then our pilots are 12-hour shifts.
Okay.
And they rotate too.
Right.
My new position is Monday through Friday with nights and weekends, and so no more 5 days off.
Yeah.
Right.
It's been a bit of a challenge for me, but the family's really enjoyed it. I'm home every night. I'm not up at 2 a.m. and stuff. So it's been good.
I have a quick question. You mentioned this territory that you service. You mentioned Pinedale. I'm thinking, when I think of air rescue, I'm thinking of the sand duner that got hurt, the ski guy, the snowmobiler, like you said, the high elevation chest pains and all that. In Pinedale, in that area, there's a lot of oil, a lot of gas and oil, a lot of that kind of stuff, a lot of workers out there. There's explosions, there's accidents out in the oil fields. Is that something you guys have had experience with as well?
Absolutely. And you have to think about the roads in the rural areas that people travel through. And so you end up with a lot of collisions, a lot of mechanism in those high speed accidents.
Right.
So we see a lot of those as well.
Well, that's interesting. I was just curious if you got many calls out in the oil fields as busy as they are.
Same thing down in Soda. You end up with the mines down in that area.
Sure.
Things happen.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, interesting.
So when you show up on scene, do they kind of prep you ahead of time for what you're getting into, or is it just kind of we got to be ready to go no matter what it is?
We're definitely prepared for whatever that's coming at us. I mean, we do ongoing education nonstop, but ultimately, sometimes we get a few little hints: chest pain, car accident, just something that triggers this: a trauma, a stroke, a heart attack. Just so we kind of have a mindset going in. Okay, this is what it might be. Yeah. But even that even can change by the time we get there. Ultimately, the complaint is something else now.
Interesting.
So we're prepared for anything.
Is there anything you can't do?
I can. No.
Not you personally, Greg, but
no. I mean, other than we don't get into the rescue efforts,
right?
But ultimately, medically speaking, we can pretty much do almost everything.
Okay.
Aside from operations, surgical.
Sure.
Things.
Yep. But you can get them to a facility quickly where
Correct.
they can
we
have
the
that
monitors. We do all the shocking and everything that we need to. We have vents and we can tube people and ultimately we have the pumps and all the meds and. In even
both
in
the helicopter.
Yep. We can do chest tubes and all sorts of things. Yep.
Anything required to get them safely from their current condition to a hospital where they can be further evaluated and helped. You've got that ability to take them safely from point A to point B and hand them off.
Correct.
And everything. So that's great. Yeah.
And on the point of safety, let's talk a little bit about that, because not every day are safe conditions for you guys to go operate. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So what happens in those cases?
So the FAA ultimately regulates flying capabilities, meaning that we have to have a certain mile visibility and a ceiling elevation. So if the clouds are down, and that goes for both aircraft, we have to be able to see the runway, the land.
Yeah.
But ultimately, let's say the rotor. We'll take the rotor. Let's say it's a bad weather day and they can't fly. Ultimately, the fixed wing can step in. We'll send the rotor crew to the hospital to pick up the patient and then bring him back to the airport to meet up with the fixed wing. If the fixed wing is not viable, then ultimately our crews are willing to go by ground as well.
Oh, wow.
So, and we see that at different facilities around here.
Yeah.
Take Gregg, for instance. A lot of times, the weather gets socked in there. Well, the crew will run over to the hospital, grab the patient, and they'll go by ground in an ambulance and bring him.
So you guys are actively trying to figure out ways to transport that patient, even if the weather's bad, because we have 12 months of winter in Rexburg, I think?
Just 12 and a half.
Yeah, 12 and a half months of winter, I believe. I think that's the actual statistic.
Yeah.
So sometimes it does require a little bit of creativity on your guys' part to get them from A to B.
No, it really does. You have to think outside the box, and maybe we need to rendezvous with an ambulance somewhere. Whatever we can do for that patient, we try to really think, how can we help them?
Yeah.
And everyone's well intertwined and connected. I mean, like you said, the rendezvous, the ambulance brings them to here, and you meet them there, and then it goes this direction, and everyone's working together for the same cause, the same goal, the same safety for the patient.
For the patient, absolutely.
And whatever it takes to safely and efficiently make that happen. And do you train that? I mean, are there like...
You can't train for every scenario.
Yeah, you can't,
possibility,
right.
But ultimately, the more training and education we do together,
Yeah.
ultimately we can work these things
The
out
more
a whole lot
natural,
quicker.
the
It
more
becomes
natural things will happen. Yeah.
Yep.
Fantastic.
Now, during the pre-show when we were out talking, which is always one of my favorite points, and we ought to start recording the pre-shows. Those are always kind of my favorite thing.
Yeah.
But we talked about, in this new position that you have, you've been able to, travel around to all these different areas, and a lot of times people will see your shirt that says Air Idaho Rescue, and sometimes you'll hear what?
So this actually just happened yesterday. I was out at a facility that I'm visiting, and every week I run into somebody that walks up and says, Air Idaho Rescue. Oh, man, you guys saved my life. Back in 2015, you flew me from point A to point B, and you totally saved me, and I'm here today because of you guys.
Wow.
It's either my grandmother or my nephew or my niece. I get it everywhere I go.
Wow.
And that's what really helps me in my job.
Well, it's got to be rewarding.
Wow, that's great.
To just know that what you guys do is solely to benefit other people.
Correct.
Sometimes those unsung heroes, they just never get mentioned, and for someone to make that mention to you that, hey, you did this, your company did that, thank you, that makes it all worth it.
It really does. It really does. And I try to pass that along to the crews and the pilots.
Yeah.
Let them know they're doing an amazing job.
Well, and it's hard too, because I think a lot of the situations they show up to, for example, when an ambulance shows up, a lot of times that person is aware, they're conscious, things like that. Where you guys kind of show up to the more ugly scenes sometimes, where maybe the patient isn't in as good a condition, so they can't really express the gratitude. Where maybe the ambulance crews, during your time in AMR and things like that, is there kind of a different feeling or a different vibe from the patients when you're transporting them via air or via ground? I mean, do you guys get less gratitude because, or does that even play a factor into anything?
It definitely, I don't know if it plays a factor in the decision maker or anything, but
Right,
definitely on a personal level.
Yeah, they didn't thank me. We're not giving them oxygen. I know it's not like that.
Yeah.
No, really, it comes down to getting to know the patient sometimes. Depending on where they're from, you can connect with them.
Yeah.
Patients I've flown out of Star Valley usually start dropping my family name, and we can make some connections.
Yeah.
And it's definitely well worth it.
Yeah.
But really, it's when the patients are unconscious, and now you're just doing everything you can to keep them alive.
Yeah.
That has a different sense to it than just talking to a patient. So there's definitely
is
every patient's different.
Yeah, and is it harder where sometimes you can't ask them medical questions?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if they're unconscious, you're not getting anything from the patient.
Right.
If their family's not around or friends or anybody that knows anything about them, then
you just kind of have to
you're
use your best
treating
judgment.
What you got.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that when you help people and get them to the hospital or whatever, there's a point where when you hand them off, you may never even see that person again. You don't know how it turned out. You don't know what they were. You just have to know in your heart that you did your best, you did your job, you passed the baton, if you will, and sometimes, again, like I was saying, you never hear back.
No, about 90% of the time, we probably don't hear anything about how the patient did, if they survived, or if they made it home, or what's going on.
And so when that person comes to you and says, thank you for what you did, wow.
It's huge.
Huge.
We love it.
Huge.
We'd love it if everybody came by the bases and visited and come look at the helicopter now that you're doing much better. We'd love to see how people are doing. And to hear the stories from families saying, you saved so-and-so. It's been great.
Just thinking back to, I think it was episode 6 when we had Chief Corey Childs from Madison Fire on the show, and he talked about a lot of times the difficulty that the firemen and the paramedics go through having to deal with some of the scenes, having to deal with some of the situations. Is it the same for the people, at Air Idaho Rescue?
Absolutely. Anybody, nurses, medics, anybody that works in EMS or the hospitals, you get to know your patients or the things that have happened to these patients, and they definitely affect you in your life on a personal level.
Yeah.
Me personally, I can think back at patients 10, 15 years ago that I've treated and still see the accident scene or what was going on in that person's home, and definitely still hits.
Wow. That is tough. Switching gears here, because I don't think we have a ton of time left, but I know this is a topic we kind of wanted to discuss a little bit. Anytime somebody sees a helicopter arrive on scene or an air ambulance going through the air or things like that, a lot of times people just start seeing dollar signs. We know that that air transport is not cheap. No matter which way you look at it, it's just as a whole, to fly through the air is not cheap. Especially when you're not packed in there with 180 other people. You guys are not Southwest Airlines or things like that where you can give a budget flight. It is very much a very precise, very precision flight to this destination. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about the money side of things and how that affects the people that you guys treat.
Okay, absolutely. So ultimately, 4 or 5 years ago, ultimately the perception was always $20, $30, $40, $50,000 to fly.
Yeah.
Anymore with Air Idaho Rescue or Air Methods in general, that's just not the case. So what happened is 2 years ago, we started getting a new CEO, and he looked internally and said, where can we make things better for the patient? Not just medically speaking and treating the patient, but ultimately on the back half, when the patient's out of the hospital, back home, how can we help them? And it all came back to the billing side of things.
Yeah.
We don't want anybody to go home and have this massive bill and stress and worry. And so we looked internally, and we changed our billers into patient advocates. And it's just like what the term means, advocate. They fight on behalf of the patient through the insurance. Nightmare. We all know that insurance is a nightmare.
It always is.
So ultimately what we do, and the perfect example I give is a patient that had a stroke. I met her. She's not local, but ultimately she was flown for very good reasons, had the stroke. She ended up with a $38,000 bill.
That's a big one.
Wow.
That's huge. Her insurance came back and said, we'll pay $6,000 or $7,000 of that bill.
That's it.
That's it.
That's amazing.
And so for her, she was like, oh, I guess that's what they cover. She had no clue.
Yeah.
And so instantly she's thinking bankruptcy, losing her house, all sorts of stuff. And that's where our patient advocacy stepped in and said, whoa, this isn't the end. We can help. And so we worked with her and her insurance, got on a conference call, submitted tons of paperwork, and ultimately helped her through the appeal process, because there is an appeal process with insurance. And ultimately, when all said and done, her insurance finally came back and said, we'll pay the full bill.
No kidding.
The full
Amazing.
$38,000. She saw zero out of pocket. And that's what our patient advocacy is geared towards, is helping patients really, I don't want to say fight back on insurance, but working with them and holding them to a standard.
And I assume that it's pretty common for insurance companies when a huge claim like that comes in, they're not in the business of just handing money out. I mean, that's otherwise we would have no insurance. I mean, they have to be very careful with the things they pay out, which is understandable. I mean, that's how we continue to get insurance. But would you say it's pretty common for the first time something goes through insurance that they're maybe not giving it all that they could? I know you're not an insurance expert.
Right.
That would be my perception. Yes.
Okay. And which is why the advocacy group exists.
Correct.
Is to help push back on those things and
Absolutely.
say, and not maybe, but again,
just
maybe
help the patient understand.
help the patient, not push
answer
back, but
questions,
cooperate.
and help them understand the jargon associated with insurance, and really help them fully understand the ins and outs of it. But also allows us to really see their situation and help them.
Yeah.
These billers that I talked to 4 years ago, they hated their jobs. They'd tell me flat out they hated going to work. But now that they're connecting with the patients and talking to them, they actually say they enjoy going to work, and they get to know these patients so well that they truly want to fight on behalf of their now friend.
You're right.
Because they get to know them over the time of this.
And like you said, really the basis behind that is just to keep everyone at a higher standard to make sure that it's fair, that it's right, that it's correct, that it makes sense, that we're not trying to make up for lost time and let's bill this person extremely high because you didn't make so much on the other guy or whatever it may be. It's just so it's across the board, fair and legitimate.
And that's just it. And ultimately, because of our new patient advocacy and the way things are going, this helps savings for not only those with insurance, but those without insurance. It's called cost shifting, no different than what the hospitals do.
Right.
And so everybody benefits. So just an example, 2018, every resident that was transported by Air Idaho Rescue in Idaho paid less than $200 on average out of pocket.
Wow.
That's great.
That's huge.
That's affordable.
Montana was under $200 as well.
Wow.
So, and then once you start breaking it down by county and stuff, it adjusts a little bit. It goes down even more.
I have heard in some instances where, let's say a paramedic says, hey, we really ought to get a helicopter in here to transport you, that people have said no because I can't afford that. But
it happens all the time.
The perception is I can't. No, I'd rather walk.
It is.
Yeah.
No, it is. And we still see that. And that's one reason why we went to this patient advocacy.
Okay.
We didn't want decisions being made off of membership, off the patient's location, the fact that they couldn't afford it. No, we want to provide the life-saving care to everybody that needs it.
Right.
And that's fantastic.
And is this pretty unique to Air Idaho Rescue where the out-of-pocket cost is so low?
This is Air Methods.
Okay.
So ultimately, this is just Air Methods company that has done this new patient advocacy.
That's
We're
awesome.
hoping it takes bite, and ultimately we'll go against the whole air medical industry.
Sure.
But right now, it's just with us.
Okay. Well, that's awesome.
And that's a reason why we've also gone away from no memberships.
Right.
We used to sell memberships for 29 years in this area. And we've recently gone away from that because patient advocacy is working out so well for our patients.
That they don't even
Why
need
pay
it.
an annual fee if you're only going to pay less than $200 out of pocket if you fly.
Right.
And what we found, most of the patients that were buying memberships weren't even the ones
Weren't even
flying.
using them.
So
Yeah.
So it's a huge savings to everybody.
That's awesome.
It's a win-win, really is.
Well, in the few minutes we have left, I just a couple just questions in general came to my mind. One of them is what has been probably the most rewarding thing about the job that you have currently with Air Methods?
In my current position, ultimately, like we talked about, just getting out and meeting people.
Mm-hmm.
I go everywhere. I get into hospitals, fire departments, and I get to talk to people. And it's just fun to get to know the communities that would surround us.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of beautiful areas, Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, and I get to go see them all.
That's pretty cool. And what about your time in the aircraft?
I don't get to fly anymore, but when I was in the aircraft, ultimately just knowing that I made a difference to that patient.
Yeah.
At that flight, at that time, I was there. And that really is the connection. And then obviously the working with the crews and everybody, we become a family. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I assume it's a lot like almost like a fire department where you guys are just kind of a real tight knit group.
Absolutely, you know, the joking, just like in a family. I mean, we eat together. We obviously we spend the night different rooms, but ultimately we're at the base and stuff. And yeah, it's just fun.
Yeah. Well, you literally are a family. I mean, you travel together, like you said, and you cook together, and you save people together, and
you face hard situations together.
That's what I was going to say. Is the hard situations, the emotional side of it. There's got to be a very emotional, heart-wrenching side to some of what you do when you see situations that just kind of break your heart.
No, absolutely, and it's nice to know that you're not the only one going through it.
Right.
That you have, your partner right there with you, and you can talk about it, help each other.
Oh,
yeah.
It's amazing what you guys are doing, what that program is, and the benefit that it offers everybody. Of course, the hope is you don't ever need it.
Correct, absolutely. But with this new program, it benefits everybody. Doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, your financial situation. Doesn't matter if you have a membership, or even if you have a membership with somebody else. It doesn't matter. We can benefit you.
Yeah. So if that opportunity comes, you've got a way to make it happen and take care of it. It's not as scary as it used to be.
No.
I that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yep, me too. Anything else you'd want to share with our audience about you, about the company before we wrap up?
No, ultimately we just really appreciate our communities. That's one thing that we're really striving hard to do, is just be more involved with the communities. Yes, we're a business. Yes, we have a helicopter or plane out there, but we love being involved with communities. We love it when the public comes and sees us.
Yeah.
Come by a hangar, come check out an aircraft. If there's a parade and you want us to fly over, we love that kind of stuff. Just like I did, putting an aircraft at my kids' elementary school.
Yeah.
We're more than happy to do that. So.
That's
wonderful.
awesome.
Yeah.
That is cool.
Can you put one on Main Street?
I can.
We might have to ask permission on that one.
Yeah, that's right.
Well,
land one here at our office.
Well, Rexburg, the show is over. We appreciate you tuning in. This is a great show. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing the benefits, the values, the affordability, the reality of what you offer is something that can be done. It's not so scary anymore. There's a way to make it happen if it's needed, and you're always there at the drop of a hat to offer those services, and we appreciate that. Rexburg, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll catch you next week at the Rexburg Hustle. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.